of all, if you could repeal Dodd-Frank tomorrow morning, you would see the economy start to improve overnight. I mean, people don't realize, this builds a little bit on what Congressman Paul said. The fact is, Dodd-Frank has led the biggest banks to get bigger. It is crushing independent banks. It has an anti-housing bias. Federal regulators are slowing down and making it harder to make loans for housing, and it is crippling small business borrowing. All those things are a function of a bill passed by the Democrats called Dodd-Frank. If they would repeal it tomorrow morning, you would have a better housing market the next day.
Do you really think the financial system is over-regulated? That's the second mention of Dodd-Frank tonight.
I really think that yes, of course it's over-regulated. When you put that much power in the Treasury under Geithner, it's an invitation to corruption. When you have a bias in the bill which makes the big banks get bigger, exactly the opposite of what a rational policy would be, it's a bad bill. When you have regulators walk in small local banks and say, do not loan money on housing, it's a bad idea.
Governor Romney, was it over-regulated prior to the collapse?
It was poorly regulated. Markets have to have regulation to work. You can't have everybody open up a bank in their garage. You have to have regulation, but it's got to be up to date. And they didn't have capital requirements put in place for the different classes of assets banks had. They also didn't have regulation properly put in place for mortgage lenders. The derivatives weren't being regulated. You need to have regulation that's up to date. They had old regulation, burdensome. Then they passed Dodd-Frank, which the Speaker's absolutely right. It has made it almost impossible for community banks. I was with the head of one of the big banks in New York. He said they have hundreds of lawyers working on Dodd-Frank to implement it. Community banks don't have hundreds of lawyers. It's just killing the residential home market, and it's got to be replaced.
Governor Romney, let me ask you this. There was a lot of talk in the last presidential campaign